Hello, this is Dave and welcome to my video presentation. This presentation is about ISO speeds and everything they represent. While ISO speeds can pertain to both digital and manual cameras, this presentation will solely focus on the 35mm medium only. Enjoy! First of all, what exactly is ISO and what does it represent? According to Wikipedia, ISO, standing for International Organization for Standardization, defines both an arithmetic scale and logarithmic scale for measuring color negative film speed. In other words, it is the measure of a photographic film's sensitivity to light. When shooting photographs, it is very important to note what kind of film speed you are using. The ISO film rating tells you how fast or slow the film is. The higher the number, the faster the film, and the more sensitive it is to the light. The lower the number, the slower the film, and the less sensitive to light. Generally, a slow film speed is ISO 100 or lower, whereas a medium film speed is either ISO 200 or ISO 400. And finally, if you're looking for a fast film speed, you would generally go with ISO 800 and higher. Since we deal with a good variety of assignments in class, we generally use a medium speed film, otherwise known as Kodak Professional Tri-X 400 TX. Through my research on photo.net, I have discovered that it is very important to use the correct ISO speed dependent upon the lighting conditions you plan to take photographs in. For example, if you were to take a photograph outside on a sunny day, you would want to use a lower ISO speed, such as ISO 100. But if you were in a low-lit room, you would want to use a higher ISO speed, such as ISO 800 or 1000. And according to user Alan on photo.net, he says, and I quote, "An ISO 200 speed film is a good trade-off, still giving you good quality images with a minimal amount of graininess." This is what I would look like if somebody took a picture of me in a low-lit room with a lower ISO speed. But if I increase the ISO speed like this, and even more, and more, that's an example of what it's like to increase the ISO speed. Basically, it lets in more light for the film. Since a previous clip was actually recorded with my camcorder, that is not exactly the best example to present lower ISO speeds versus higher ISO speeds. Here's a great image example that I found on the web. This demonstrates the transition of going from a slow film speed of ISO 100 all the way up to a much faster film speed of ISO 1600. As you can see, this photograph was obviously taken inside. ISO 100 provides hardly any information. ISO 400, while in the middle of the scale, does provide more light, but you could use more information. ISO 1600, a very fast film speed, clearly lets in enough light and tells the viewer what kind of image they are looking at. As Alan noted earlier in the photo.net discussion quote, it is important to choose the correct ISO speed dependent upon the graininess you are looking for in your photo. For instance, you may want to use a slower film speed such as ISO 100 or 200 if you're looking for slower shutter speeds and finer grain. However, if you want to use a faster shutter speed, you would have to use a faster film speed, such as ISO 800 or higher. As mentioned before though, the higher the ISO speed you use, the grainier your image will appear. The following is another image example showing the differences between using a slower film speed versus a higher film speed. While these images were shot with a digital camera, namely the Canon EOS 10D, this is still a good example of showing what it is like to use a slower film speed versus a higher. This example demonstrates increased noise and depth of field in a photograph as you increase the ISO. As you can see, the photograph on the far left, taken at ISO 100, barely has any visible grain. Whereas the photograph on the far right, taken at a film speed of ISO 1600, shows much grain and overall less image quality. So there you have it, a basic explanation of film speeds in about 5 minutes. Thank you for watching.